Hello there, everyone. I'm James Milan. Welcome to this ACMi Election 2026 special. In fact, the one and only debate we will be presenting in this election cycle, which is the debate for school committee for the one-year term that is meant to fill a vacancy, of course. And we have the three candidates with us here tonight in the studio. We want to welcome Dmitry Vasilyev. I'm going from my left to my right. So Dmitry is in seat number one, so to speak. Crystal Haynes is in the middle. And Sean Berry is on my right. We are going to proceed with the standard format for these debates. I will describe it very quickly right now. 2-minute opening statements for each of the candidates. The order was chosen at random, but interestingly enough, it is the same order in which I just introduced the candidates. That will be followed by 2 sets of questions. The first is a set of 3 questions prepared by us here at ACMi, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer those questions. Then we will proceed to a round in which each of the candidates has a chance to ask a question of the other 2. They will both respondents will have 2 minutes to answer, and then the person who asked the question will have 1 minute to respond to those questions. We will move through all 3 candidates having the opportunity to do that and finish with closing statements of 1 minute each, in reverse order from the way that they do the opening statements. So hopefully all that is clear enough. We want to get going, and I'm sure the candidates are ready to get going. We're happy to have them here. We appreciate your time and your efforts as well, and we wish everybody the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to start then with our opening statements. As I mentioned, 2 minutes, and we'll start with you, Dmitry Vasilyev.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Dmitry. I'm candidate for the school committee asking for your vote. I'm here to make the school committee more proactive and in tune with children's needs by bringing voices of students into the school committee. You may be unaware of this, but it's not easy to be a child these days. If you probably heard about mental health epidemic among children with increasing rates of depression and anxiety. To address this, I want our committee to listen proactively and empathetically to our students, asking them, how are you really doing? And listen acutely. For that, I'd like to implement short surveys for all children after each course, asking briefly, how was it? Was it too overwhelming? Was it too easy? Was it too fast? We need to ask our children also in general, what the priorities of our schools should be. It's also important to implement exit surveys for families who withdraw children from our schools, asking where our schools failed. It's an important source of feedback. Second, my plan is to improve the academic standards in elementary and middle schools, starting with math. Current math curriculum, called Turk Investigations, is deficient on almost all metrics as determined by the Massachusetts Department of Education. I'm here to help with choosing and transition to a better math curriculum. Third, I'll continue advocating to provide a healthy challenge to all kids. If a child wants a more difficult course, we should accommodate it. Academic boredom is bad. It contributes to the current mental health crisis because lack of good dopamine makes kids to turn to bad dopamine, such as disruptive behavior and addiction to screens. We need to allow flexible pathways that would provide just the right level of healthy challenge for kids. Thank you for attention, and I hope for your vote.
Thank you very much, Dmitry, and we'll move to you now, Crystal Haynes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much to ACMi for hosting tonight's conversation. My name is Crystal Haynes Copperthorne. I'm a journalist, educator, nonprofit leader, community organizer, and a mom. Education has shaped my life in profound ways. Having access to a gifted program helped me lift out of poverty. That experience is why I believe education is both a ladder and a mirror. A ladder that creates opportunity for young people and a mirror that reflects who we are as a community. APS is also deeply personal for my family. 5 generations have attended Arlington's public schools. My husband is a public school teacher, and my aunt-in-law developed the curriculum and worked on the building of Thompson School. Our schools are strong. We know that. Our students are capable, our educators are dedicated, and our families are engaged. But leadership means acknowledging challenges clearly and addressing them head on. State officials identified underreported bullying, that is. Youth surveys show rising anxiety among students. Discipline data shows Black and Latino students are significantly more likely to receive in-school suspensions. And MCAS results still show achievement gaps in key student groups. Families have raised concerns about special education compliance. And a recent state report identified a multi-million-dollar budget shortfall after prior warnings. Now, these issues affect real students and families. That's why my campaign is grounded in 3 principles. That includes equity and excellence. When students feel safe and supported, achievement rises, and we need to have an approach that is unified for solutions here. Representation strengthens leadership, diverse voices build trust, and strengthen decision-making at the governance level. And strong schools and smart stewardship. I have the experience in dealing with budgets and making sure that great classrooms have strong governance.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we'll move to Sean Berry.
Hi, I'm Sean Berry, and I'm excited by the opportunity to bring my commitment and passion for improving our public schools as a member to the Arlington School Committee. I believe social justice begins in the classroom, and a quality education is a civil right. To me, equity and excellence are one and the same. It is my goal to ensure every Arlington student has the opportunity to be heard, respected, and thrive. As a parent of a 2nd and 6th grader in our district, I have been a dedicated advocate in Arlington for years, serving as the Brackett PTO president, a town meeting member, and a collaborator on many APS working groups. I will also bring my experience as a teacher and math instructional coach in the diverse Cambridge Public Schools to our work of the school committee. Next year, the committee will renegotiate the union contract for Unit A members. It is imperative we get these negotiations right so we can retain the skilled, dedicated, and diverse staff our schools depend on. We must also continue to evaluate our 5-year strategic plan. I deeply understand the goals of this plan because I was a member of the community group that helped draft them. I will hold our district accountable to the promise of improving outcomes for students with IEPs, our multilingual learner families, multilingual learners, families identified as low income, and our LGBTQIA+ community. District policy must also be forward-thinking. I will push for policies that respond in real time to how AI is transforming teaching and learning. Furthermore, every policy we make must be grounded in data, and that data must be evaluated with curiosity. Using my training in Harvard's DataWise process, I will help the committee investigate data to identify and correct inherent bias. With my experience in education and knowledge of the issues currently facing our school committees, I'm prepared to join the school committee as an active member, contributor on day 1.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all 3 of you. We're going to now move on to the first round of questions, and that is, again, 3 prepared questions. We will start with Dimitri, but each of you will have 2 minutes. And so, question number 1 is this. Please describe as specifically as you can which aspect or aspects of the work the school committee does you would be particularly good at. Feel free to reference both your personal and your professional experience in making your argument. Dimitri.
For me, most interesting and most engaging would be choose of a curriculum, especially curriculum for math. I would be also involved in evaluating any kind of data because I'm a statistician and I'm a data scientist. And I'm very familiar with all sorts of data artifacts that can be encountered. For example, our MCAS scores. And I've brought this to a school committee about half a year ago. As we observe, yes, we have good MCAS scores. However, there is a significant factor that should not be swiped off is enrichment program. And where basically families put students to enrichment programs like RSM, Art of Problem Solving, Kumon, which basically which are not reflective of the school contribution. And we need to account for this. There's a way to correct the scores to isolate contribution, which is according to curriculum and according to enrichment scores. And it's done basically via just survey. and this can be done pretty rigorously. This would be my main contributions, and I'm also eager to select a better math curriculum for our schools, because the Turk makes children believe that they're bad in math, whereas they're good in math. It's just that the way how this curriculum is structured, it puts very unintuitive ways of thinking. Our brains think deductively, and because we kind of connect the dots. And this program gives you a line and then the dots, so it is counterintuitive.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we'll move on to you, Crystal. And I first want to say, I want to clarify, your name may be on the ballot in a way that I spoke inaccurately. I mentioned you as Crystal Haynes. Many people might know you that way. Crystal Haynes Copperthorne is how you may be on the ballot, so I apologize for that.
No worries, no worries. Thank you so much.
So please, take your 2 minutes.
So we know that the school committee governs the district, setting policies, approving budgets, hiring and evaluating the superintendent, and I think that that's extraordinarily important. Where my particular skill set is valuable in that I have a recorded track history of being a convener on the Human Rights Commission, on the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Observance Committee, also along with the Arlington Black Joy Group, and working directly with the town and APS on some really tough issues when COVID, BLM, and anti-Asian hate and anti-Semitism threatened to divide our community. And so I think my particular skill set is making sure that we bring groups across town to make sure that we are creating solutions on the school committee that affect everyone. Schools are part of an ecosystem, part of the town, and so being a convener is extraordinarily important in that. I also think I, as an executive nonprofit leader, have managed large multi-million-dollar budgets and have experience in governance in that particular vein, and also have a large and wide network through 20 years of being a journalist across Massachusetts and connected to so many groups. I'm also a facilitator, a trained facilitator through Northeastern School of Sport and Society, and that's anti-bias training. And so all of these things will be valuable when we're talking about policy and setting curriculums and making that our standards are high for our students, but also making sure that when we don't have all the answers, and the school committee doesn't always have, no single person has all the answers, making sure that we bring in folks in the community and make sure we leverage the resources like our towns and commissions as well.
All right, thank you very much. Sean.
Wonderful question. So as I explained, I do have a background in education with nearly a decade worth of experience teaching and being a math instructional coach in the diverse Cambridge Public Schools. So like Dimitri, I can bring in a sense of looking at data, but this specifically around educational data. In my role as a math instructional coach, I help teachers uncover students' strengths to improve differentiation. I helped administrators synthesize student data and draft meaningful goals for school improvement plans. And I help the school reach those goals by leading professional development. So I have a clear expertise bringing that into our evaluation of curriculum and instruction. And on that lens, when we look at data, as I said before, we need to be curious about it. We need to be asking, have we based our decisions on data with sound research? Are we measuring what matters, who benefits and who doesn't, and what can we do about it? The other main role of our school committee is being a voice for our community, and I want to make sure that we're listening to everybody, right? I don't think that our school committee, right now I hear a lot from parents that they're frustrated, that their concerns are not being heard and they're not being able to be an active voice, and I do believe our parents should be our greatest partners and champions of the school district. So I want to make sure that those two-way means of communication are clear, and that we're supporting parents' participation. I think it's being a parent with students in our district. I also have a unique perspective where I'm having those conversations, whether it's at a sports practice or an orchestra, and again, being at an orchestra rehearsal, and again, being the bracket PTO president, I'm hearing these conversations from family members every day. And it's a reflection also of whose voices are absent when we're looking at working at a district level. So I think that those are two main areas that I want to bring: building better communication pathways Thank you.
Sorry to cut you
No.
off. All right, we'll move on to next question. And in this question, we'll change the order of things. And Crystal, you'll go first, and then Sean, and then Dimitri, and we'll change that for the third question as well. And I want to apologize in advance, both to our audience out there and to you guys. This is a long question. I apologize.
Okay.
So looming over this debate and this election is the sobering possibility that the $15 million override that is on the ballot doesn't pass. If that indeed happens, the school committee you'll be joining will be faced with a number of hard choices, including, and I'm just going to mention a few, there are many, but including possibly reducing the number of teachers and/or staff positions, instating or increasing fees to be paid by students and their families, and even possibly closing one of the elementary schools. These are a few, but not by no means comprehensive. Of all the tough options, what is one you could live with, and what is the one that you simply couldn't accept? Starting with you, Crystal.
James, you asked the tough questions. I can see that journalism background there. I think the one that I could live with, and this is probably a really difficult choice personally for me, would be closing the Fox Library. I think it is a great resource to our community, but it is something that we have never found a clear solution in keeping it open when we're talking about other overrides, and we can transfer that programming into the Robbins Library in a thoughtful way. I think the thing that we cannot get rid of is our teachers. They are absolutely essential and vital, and I think we also need to make sure that we are hiring teachers that also have the training and the cultural competencies to make sure that our students feel safe, supported, and valued, because that is the true definition of equity, and also has their needs in mind. And I don't think our teachers have enough resources, because the data bears that out. So I think, when we're talking about the override, we're making hard choices right now, but the school committee, ultimately, their job is to make sure that we are governing. We don't set the tax rate, even though, Sean and myself are both precinct captains for the override, and we're very much for that, but we don't set the budget. Our job is to be good stewards of the money, and I think when we're looking at experience, making sure that you have the experience navigating multi-million-dollar budgets, making sure that a diverse set of folks is making sure they have everything that they need, they have access to the resources they need, but also making sure the students feel supported and that programs that keep kids whole remain in place. And I think that that's extraordinarily important. When I listen to folks across my precinct, Precinct 7, which is extremely diverse both in age, in social class, and also in ethnicity, you hear these differing needs from them. And I think it's extraordinarily important that we focus on making sure kids are whole, and so are teachers.
All right, thank you very much. Sean Berry.
I appreciate Crystal's answer, and we both have been working very hard out there talking with our constituents, myself in Precinct 10, to hope that this override does pass so that we're not facing these crucial cuts, or significant cuts. I agree, we have to maintain our student-facing positions, so whatever that we need to do, and I'm really proud of our current school committee, because after being faced with potential cuts to our multilingual learner teachers, and possibly having to reduce our building-based specialists, they went back to the drawing board and said we need to dig deeper to see if this actually has to be an option, because we know how much our multilanguage learner community relies on those teachers to be advocates, not just supporting their work inside of the classroom and outside, but helping them make a very sense of belonging in the community and making a transition if they've just moved to this community. So I think the difficult question of the options that you laid out, unfortunately, would be having to look at structural issues about possibly closing a school, because with closing a school, we might raise the number of students in our building, but if we can retain our student to teacher ratio, then perhaps we'll still be able to give the most valuable instruction and giving those students what they need. So although it would be a very difficult choice and it would affect a community and disrupt that community, if we're looking for that, if we can preserve, like I said, preserve our student-facing positions and our service providers, that's really where the critical work happens.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dimitri.
My take on this would be, yes, preserve the student-facing positions. And so, but I think that a lot of choice belongs to superintendent. I'm personally really kind of, I live very close to Fox Library, so it's very hard for me to say. What I unfortunately don't hear is a voice of kids. That we grown-ups make these decisions, but we don't hear what kids' opinion is on this. And I acknowledge this. So I think that we need to hear our children. That's why I suggest that we need to go to our children and ask them to guide us, because that's their life. We just help them to ask what they want. And it's up to us to make out of this a clear priority that will serve them. That's my take on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Third question in this round, and we'll start with you, Sean. Let's assume the override passes, yay, and that you are able to look forward to the normal work of the school committee. What are you most excited about contributing to the committee's work, and what part of that work, if any, do you think could be changed for the better?
What a great question. And I do hope that the override does pass so that we can be looking about maintaining the great services that we do provide in Arlington, because we've made wonderful successes, right? We were one of 6 districts that were able to meet and exceed our pre-pandemic MCAS scores, and our elementary school, Dallin, was recognized as a school of recognition, and this is all because of the hard work we were able to do and the supports we put into place. So maintaining those is so critical. I think the area that we can work with is again, like I said, reviewing where we are with our strategic plan and looking at where those supports need to be continued. One of the promises made in our strategic plan was looking at piloting project-based learning. And I think that our commitment to critical thinking and deep learning needs to expand in that direction. Again, with the advent of AI, our students, I just spoke with a high school student this week who said it's really frustrating to walk into class and submit my essay when so many of my classmates have been using AI. So I think we need to really work with the superintendent on evaluating what the tasks are in the effort of proving deep learning and critical thinking. So I do believe project-based learning is an opportunity for that. And the school committee, we don't set curriculum, but we work with the superintendent on following through on the promises and commitments that we made in the strategic plan.
Okay, thank you. Dmitry?
Sorry, would you repeat the question, please?
Sure, it's basically just, what are you most excited about being able to contribute to the school committee? And what, if anything, do you think could or should be changed about the way the school committee functions?
I echo what Sean mentioned, is that it's important that we hear our kids, where kids leads us. And I've often complained is that school committee doesn't listen well. And I want this to make a step further. I want to make school committee proactively looking out for feedback. Is that we should not wait until the problem escalates, until, like it happened with the math, a lot of frustrated parents and kids present in front of a school committee. That's too late. We need to proactively reaching out to kids, asking, what are you bothered right now? How can we improve? What are your top priorities are? Well, for example, we talk about renovation of Ottoson School. Well, we need to ask our kids, like, what is the priority? Where in the priority list is the Ottoson renovation? Is there something more urgent we can do for you? I see our students drive the bus and us following it. And of course, we cannot make them drive, okay? We have prefrontal cortexes. But we want to process the input and kind of make an executive decision accounting for that. We need to meet where kids are, and especially important for me is that teaching right now, the curriculum is very rudimentary. Kids barely get any homework in elementary school. It may work for some kids, but for some kids it's just a wasted opportunity, valuable opportunity, which percolates throughout the whole further school. It's important that we pick adequate challenge, that it should be, kids should choose. If they want a hard curriculum, so
Sorry
be
to
it.
cut you off. Thank you very much. Crystal.
Listen, I think the strategic plan gives us a lot of great direction, and I thank everyone who worked on that, because I know it was tough work. And as we were walking into an override, and if it passes, I also think that we need to start thinking about where the gaps do rise. We tend to celebrate schools that are doing exceedingly well. The superintendent, the latest press release, mentioned schools like Pierce and Dallin, but they don't mention the Thompson School there. We know, even though we are nationally ranked as a school district on some reports, that Black and Latino students are receiving in-school discipline 14 times higher than their white counterparts. We know that there are gaps of upwards of almost 30 points between students of color in Arlington and their white counterparts for MCAS. So while we are celebrating, whole groups of folks in town are being left behind. I can tell you I'm part of a group of parents of color, and there is a significant amount of them that want to leave the district because their children feel left behind, and that we have been absentee in making sure that all learners rise with everyone else. We talk about academic rigor. I'm not interested in leaving anyone behind. I'm interested in making sure that while we are having a party for our MCAS results and our achievement at the Dallin School, that we are also making sure every single kid is feeling that. Belonging is not just a statement that we throw into the school handbook. It's something that we need to make sure every person, every staff member, every student feels that, every family feels that. Representation, I know, strengthens leadership because it builds trust. Right now we have a handful of individuals in charge of our equity in town, maybe 2 or 3. That can't happen. We need diverse perspectives on the school board to create innovative solutions.
All right. Thank you very much. And that will conclude that first round of questions, and we're going to now move on. I'll just remind everybody that we will start with you, Dimitri. You have a chance to ask a question of the other 2 candidates, and each of you will have 2 minutes to respond, and then Dimitri, you in turn will have 1 minute to respond to that. So, as soon as you are ready, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, James. So, my question is that the way I see this position is conflicted, meaning that we respond to voters for grown-ups. We sell our agenda to grown-ups. So it's kind of between grown-ups that we determine what should happen to the recipients. Recipients, children that don't vote, and even parents, the minority of our electorate. So how would you resolve this?
Do we go in this order? Okay. How do we resolve the fact that adults are the decision makers? Is that what you're asking?
That who we serve is not our electorate. Because usually in a democratic process, right?
Yeah,
I guess I'm just, I apologize. I don't know if that takes the time, but I just wanted to ask a clarifying question.
Yes, I'm going to just interject and say what I understood him to be asking or saying was that indeed there is this conflict, as he perceives it, between who elects you and therefore who you're speaking to in some ways, and who you serve, which are the children in the school system. And how would you respond to that? Is that all right with both of you?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I would say that it is not just the kids that we serve in a school district. There are hundreds of staff members and teachers and support positions as well. I think the kids absolutely have an important voice, and certainly at the high school level, they absolutely voice that as well. And I think that they have spaces for feedback, but I think we have to think of, as a school committee, good governance means taking care of everyone within a school ecosystems, and that includes teachers and administrative staff, making sure that there's checks and balances, and also that we are hiring staff that is supportive of the students, that there is diverse hiring practices that are in place, that we're making sure that folks have the background to bring in folks from the community, the human rights commissions, the other folks in town who have the mastery of subjects to connect to the kids. I think that Arlington's very siloed, and to create another silo where it's like the kid voice, I worry about that, because I think we need to start thinking about the town as an entire ecosystem where everyone needs to work together to make sure that kids succeed. And that also means making sure families succeed. That also means making sure that caregivers succeed, and make sure that the staff succeed as well. Our teachers are extraordinarily important to this particular equation, and we need to make sure that the supports are there so that they can make informed decisions that affect all the kids. I think about the kids all the time. This is extremely important to me. My son is a brown kid where less than 3% of the population are brown. And so I'm extraordinarily concerned about this, and it is personal to me, but I think as the grown-up, as a parent, it's our job to create a space where they can thrive, and then they have the resources to have an opinion about the things that we have given them. So I guess that would be my complete answer to that.
Thank you. And Sean, you also
I
have
appreciate your answer, Crystal. I think there is an opportunity for us to understand where our students are within the classroom. I think that one of the pieces, especially as our students get older, 5th grade on, that we do need to engage them a little bit more in a reflective practice, and that they take ownership of that. In my experience in Cambridge, we often had students do reflective portfolios, and we're moving away from a quantitative score that the students didn't feel as active with. And I think there's an opportunity for that, because that's going to engage that metacognition of how are you as a learner. And I think there's value in that. I agree with what Crystal said, though, is that we want experts to be helping guide the students through that. And so if we can usher that within the classrooms, but I think there's an opportunity for that in their own assessments, and especially as we gear them up to be in high school and we're saying, please pick a career path. How are we mentoring them on that? How are we really getting their feedback? I'm glad that you mentioned the Math Pathways Task Force, because I know that's important to you, and I was selected to be a member of that, and I actually worked on the survey that we're hoping to have for students, families, and teachers as well, because we recognize understanding what the experiences of math for our students is part of the critical information that we need to make any reforms about what math looks like for students and the pathways that are available to them. So yes, and, right?
Okay, thank you, and 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, my personal take is that it is important that it's important for to take because kids grow up, and it's important that they are heard from really early on, and that the school serves them as the primary function. It is, and in my opinion, the cards are stacked against them, because there are very important, very powerful entities, teachers' unions, administration, and which basically have their own interests. And the kids do not find, often just pushed down. That there are, say, for example, kids ask for something like, can I take this course? And the question goes to a director, and the director says no. And it's more like gives a message, bureaucracy over kids. This traumatizes kids. When they grow up, they dump the values.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next question. Crystal, you will ask, and we will move to Sean first, and then to Dimitri.
Okay, perfect. Sean, first I want to say I appreciate your experience in the schools, and I think having that classroom experience and on the PTO is really important. So I want to say thank you for that. We know Arlington's student population is increasingly diverse, yet leadership doesn't always reflect that diversity. We know that the school board has never had a person of color on it in the history of Arlington. How do you think representation and community trust influence effective school governance?
I think it's critical, and I'm glad that you're raising that question. I think that it's one that we need to think about. I think we need to understand how those voices play a role in the decisions that we're making. I think that I bring, with my experience in the diverse Cambridge Public Schools, experience in very diverse communities and how the best practices that are in place in schools to succeed. For example, I was elected from a group of teacher leaders to go to the conference on the Coalition of Educators of Black Men, of Black students. And we bring those back, right? I had to help nurture a student through a very delicate situation of recognizing they have to they don't want to participate in ballroom dance because they're Muslim, and recognizing that and nurturing the community. I had students that had recognized different pronouns, and this was 20 years ago in our classroom. So this idea of cultural competency is one that's not new, but representation matters. There's a different voice that people can offer through lived experience, but I believe my professional experience can also look critically at the issues that matter.
Thank you. Dimitri?
Yeah. I will say my personal take is that it is absolutely important. There is a reason the diversity is not only because it makes the process much fairer. And diversity is not the diversity when I say so, but it's actually getting into really being comfortable with really getting somebody's opinion where you have no idea what the person will say. And it's very uncomfortable. And I was in this situation. I'm an immigrant, and it happens to me all the time. But I also say is that the diversity and the issues of pronouns are grown-up issues. And we grown-ups created these problems. And it's up to grown-ups to decide. So it's important that kind of maybe kids are aware of this, but they will not solve this problem for us. We need to solve it ourselves. So we're grown-ups. So for example, like if I have some disagreement with my wife, right? We go and figure this out between two of us. We do not expect kids to take any sides. So, and this is also, it's important right now, is that we need to meet kids where they are and give them what they need. But our problems, we need to understand it's up to us to decide.
Thank you very much. And 1 minute response time.
I think, I appreciate the perspectives of the candidates here, but I think what we cannot discount is we have had so many school committee board members that have said, I have experience in diverse classrooms and I have experience being able to navigate kids of color, but the reality is we've never had anyone who's been a kid of color, who's been on the receiving end of those policies. We don't invite families of color. We don't invite diverse families into the conversation in any meaningful way. We have some major bias incidents that have happened in town, and the state has recognized that we don't do enough. We have not done enough, and we don't have a plan strong enough to address them right now. So it is great to have policies that and banners and things like that, but until that is felt by the community, it's all just performative. Representation strengthens leadership. It builds trust with the families in town, and that is the extraordinary part here. And I think while my colleagues...
Sorry, I've gotten to cut each of you off at different times now. All right, last question in this round and in the debate, in fact, and then it is up to you, Sean.
Great, thank you. Can you describe ways in which you have been involved in Arlington Public Schools and issues specific to Arlington Public Schools?
Yeah, if we start with Dimitri.
My experience with Arlington Public Schools started when my 3 kids came here from Somerville. And it was an unpleasant experience. So all of our kids said that the curriculum here is really low, as if they were transferred 1 year behind in all they already studied in Somerville. And especially bad was the situation with my middle child, who came home crying, saying how lousy is the math curriculum, literally, and how he hates math because he's so advanced. But his teacher was not really receptive and actually kind of putting him down, and because she expected certain explanations in a particular way. And there was a hope that she could bypass, like using bypass test. And but it didn't happen. And but that was realization that the elementary and middle schools are just academically so behind. And my youngest child was completely got detached. He just didn't care to bring his backpack because there was no homework. So we ended up pulling two of our 3 children into private schools where they are just much more academically engaged and get the challenge up to par. My oldest is in high school, and she has okay experience. So but we found more families with the same issues, and we founded Arlington Math Parents, who actually supported the committee, the math task force, which you, Sean, mentioned. And I think these people deserve credit. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen.
Okay. I think my experience in the schools, 5 generations of my family have gone through APS, and so if you're at a Thanksgiving dinner at the Copperthorne household, you are hearing about your differing experiences. But also my nieces and nephews continue to be in the schools and have disparate experiences. I'm in an interracial family, and so they all have different lived experiences despite going to the same school, and so that's completely unacceptable. I also, working on the Arlington Human Rights Commission, have had direct connection with the schools as we navigated things like Black Lives Matter, hate graffiti that showed up in the schools, especially in middle school situations, and connected with parents on what are the solutions that work in their household and their community. And I also have, in working with this override campaign, have also been able to connect with parents in that way. My son will be another student that's in the schools as well. I mean, if you Google it, there are a number of folks within my family that also work for the schools, are connected to the schools, and so it informs a lot of my decision making. Working with the Black History Banner Project, which is something that I founded. I directly worked with the art department in making sure that kids had a voice in designing some of those banners as well. And it honestly rose to the top some of those issues of disparity in town in the reactions that I got in working on that particular project as well. And that was what activated me in this particular position, because this is extremely personal to me. My nieces and nephews are found family. My son will be in Arlington Public Schools, and I need him to go into a better situation than my nieces and nephews experienced as they were here before, and that's extraordinarily important. I think if you continue with more of the same siloed work within PTOs that don't connect to town-wide solutions, that becomes a problem. And I think we need to think differently and have more innovation around this work.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Crystal, for bringing up that really good point about the inequities around PTOs. Because having been a president of the PTO for several years now, it's actually something I've been working on, is that we know that we have disparate budgets among our PTOs to represent the disparate access in our communities. And that means that PTO-funded field trips are not the same. And we need to make sure that our students are having equitable enrichments. And I'm hoping that to promote and return to a district-wide PTO so that we can say that all of our students are receiving similar enrichments. They can all go into 6th grade with similar experiences, because that is extremely important to equity, and that's where that equity needs to happen. I think, as I said, this is a culmination of my experience running for school committee with my participation, whether at PTO, multiple APS working groups, and I'm excited to bring that kind of internal knowledge and working to school committee this next year.
All right. Thank you to the 3 of you. And that will conclude the questions part of the debate and leave just closing statements. Hopefully we'll give you a couple of seconds here, Sean, to catch your breath, because you'll be going first, and hopefully nobody feels any vertigo about the fact that we're going to go right to left now just for the last bit. So we'll start closing statements, 1 minute each. Sean Berry.
Thank you, James, and thank you to everyone at ACMi and my fellow candidates. Every APS student and caretaker deserves to be listened to and feel like their concerns matter. As your school committee member, I will bridge the gap between leadership, families, and students. Not everyone can watch lengthy meetings or parse through school reports. I will use my experience in education to translate that edu-speak into the language of the classroom, making sure you are included in the conversation and not just informed by it. I'm committed to retaining our valuable teachers, making evidence-based decisions, and ensuring we invest responsibly in programs that yield results for our students. As a public school educator and active Arlington advocate, I have the experience and insight needed to hit the ground running and make this one-year term count. My name is Sean Berry, and I ask for your vote on March 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Haynes Copthorne.
Listen, everybody, this moment calls for innovative and diverse leadership that ensures that every child, regardless of race, ability, faith, or background, feels safe and valued and has what they need to succeed and thrive. The work cannot be symbolic. It must be actionable. Progress cannot be made in silos. Solutions live in communities. We can be ambitious and accountable. We can protect academic excellence and student wellness. We can plan responsibly for enrollment growth. We can strengthen communication and trust when systems fall short. I bring executive leadership experience, successful community organizing right here in town, and the perspective of 5 generations of folks who went through APS. I am ready to serve Arlington and help guide our schools forward. Education is a ladder and a mirror. This moment requires families to vote for the APS that they want for their children and folks who want the future generations representing this town. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll finish with you, Dmitry Vasilyev.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all participants here, Sean, Crystal, fruitful discussion, to James, Sean, Jeff, and ACMi for hosting this important event. I hope they managed to highlight how important it is to put children's vision and needs front and center in the school committee, how important it is to genuinely listen to our kids and provide them adequate level of challenge. My favorite quote is by European educator Johann Pestalozzi: "Without love, neither the physical nor the intellectual powers will develop naturally." It resonates with me because the way I see it, there is no way to factor out, replace kindness from education. No laws, no policies, no numbers or guidelines can replace genuine care for kids' well-being. I'm asking if you could trust me to be a voice for your kids in school committee. I hope for a vote on March 28th.
Thank you to the 3 of you, and thank you also for joining us for this debate for the one-year term on the school committee here in the year 2026. I just want to remind you also that this is the one debate that we're doing here at ACMi, and that is in part because most of the other races are uncontested, and you can find additional election materials that we hope will be helpful for you on ACMi channels and on our website, and that includes the fact that we invited all the candidates for all the races to provide profiles, a 5-minute presentation from each of them, and those who took us up on it, you will be able to see those candidate profiles over the next couple of weeks leading up to the election, again on our channels, on our YouTube page, and also on our website. So, with thanks to Dmitry Vasilyev, Crystal Haynes Copthorne, and to Sean Berry for an excellent debate, and wishing again all of you good luck in the upcoming vote, and reminding you March 28th is the day. The vote is important, it always is. This is a consequential election, as I think we all understand. So get out and make your voice heard. For ACMi and for the candidates, I'm James Milan. Hey, we'll see you next time.